And I think our host is here.
Hello, how are we tonight?
We're doing well.
Okay, I'm going to start off. We have two more that were supposed to join us. So whenever they come in, I'll just kind of do the intro and then I'll go into as we speak. Hello.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, we're going to start with the intro. Hello, everyone. I am Opus Night, and you have entered Night Vision. And we have Nikki. Actually, I'm terrible with names, pronunciations. So if all three of you would like to introduce yourself, that would be awesome.
I'm Nikki Nelson Hicks. Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Hi, I'm Alan Hesse.
Hello.
Good evening. Hi, good evening, everybody.
You're muted, Chris. Yeah, I know.
Unmute.
Oh, I know.
There you are.
How are we?
I jumped right out of a meeting right into this. And,
So did I.
all right. So with mute off, my name is Chris Lodwig.
How are you?
Hi, Chris.
I'm doing just fine. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to start everyone with tell me what type of novels you've written and what type of genres your favorite. Start
Okay.
off
Go
with
first.
Alan.
Shall I go first? Because alphabetical order?
First here.
Okay. Okay, I'm actually an author of nonfiction comics and graphic novels.
Nice.
And they're educational about the environment. And my current focus is climate change, but it has elements of fantasy because my main character is an anthropomorphic animal, a polar bear. And that's the books I write. I write all about the natural environment, and they always have a message. And it's nonfiction, but it's like packaged in a fun adventure, lots of humor, graphic novel. And my favorite genre is difficult to pick. I guess I would go with historical fiction.
Have you tried writing historical fiction?
Nope, I have not. I just like to read it. Maybe one day I'll do it.
Okay. Nikki, would you like?
Oh, hi. Hi, Nikki Nelson Hicks.
Hi.
My tagline is I write cheap, quick, and weird. Most of my stuff is with the pulp genre or horror genre, steampunk, pretty much whatever you give me a contract for, I'll write.
Down
But,
my
my favorite genre is pretty much dark horror, noir. Anything that has a good monster and a murder in it, I'm there.
Love it. Chris?
Well, so my novel that I've recently published is a sci-fi novel called Systemic. And I mostly read two things. I mostly read sci-fi. My wife and I, when we read together at night, read a lot of fantasy. And I also really enjoy like popular science things or psychology or things like that. Reading a lot of those nonfiction books like that. It helps actually give me some backing for my sci-fi that I write. So I work that in a lot.
Wonderful. Actually, we have Sean.
Hey.
How are we?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm good. Everyone else, you want to say hi?
Hi, Sean.
Hi, Sean.
Okay, well, Sean, we have just discussed, you were just a second breaking in, and we were discussing, tell us about your novel. What type of genre do you write, and what kind of genre interests you?
Yeah, this is great. So I recently published a kind of classic fantasy novel called The Lightning Knight, and it's a very, swords and sandals, magic, dragons, elves, kind of your classic Tolkien-esque fantasy. And that's predominantly what I write. I have that going in the works as a longer series, and I have separately a middle grade kind of magic treehouse meets kind of going into fictional folk tales fantasy book that I'm working on as well. So I love writing in the kind of the fantasy realm of genre. Personally, I love reading fantasy as well as sci-fi. But beyond that, I really like fiction work or nonfiction work, really, based off like real world events, kind of like with Elizabeth Holmes and Bad Blood, or Console Wars.
Nice.
You know,
She's
things.
fascinating.
Yeah, things that have really happened where a journalist has gone in, written a book, and oftentimes they do a really good job of kind of getting into the underbelly of what really was happening. So,
So
that's
you've
what I
read Bad
gravitate
Blood?
towards. I did,
That's
and I
great.
watched the HBO documentary. It's
Fascinating.
and I listened to a podcast from ABC. It's ridiculous. But if you want something a little bit more lighthearted, Console Wars is really good. It's about Sega versus Nintendo in the early 90s, and that does a really, really good job of showing kind of how crazy it was in the late 80s in terms of the video game industry, and then into the 90s, and it kind of ends with the late 90s. So also a really fun read as well.
It sounds like it. Now, anyone can interject or, speak freely. This is how we roll.
Okay, got
Get
it.
the energy flowing.
Yes,
Yeah.
I want to hear creativity. I want to breathe it. Okay.
All right.
All
So
about that. Get the
I
energy
guess-
going.
exactly, get those juices going.
I guess I have a question for everybody. Are people here self-published, traditionally published, or beyond that, maybe like published in any kind of magazines or other mediums? I know for me personally, I'm only self-published, and that was last month. So it's
I
all
do
kind
both.
of new to me.
Yeah, I do both.
I do both.
do.
I mean, I love indie publishing because I have all the control, and I'm a control freak. So I have so much fun playing with the layouts and learning new programs. That to me is a lot of fun. But I have worked with other houses, and that's fine. I mean, although you lose a lot of control, and again, the story isn't yours for the next 3 to 4 years. So, you have that. But once the rights come back to you, well, then the story's yours again, and I republish it under my house. That's what I usually do.
So when you say the story isn't yours, do you mean like it's just out in the world and they get to do whatever they want with
Well, you don't have
kind
rights
of the
to it
marketing?
anymore. Right.
Okay.
You don't have rights to it. So for instance, like I have a story out Black Cherry, and it's under Wolfpack Press has it for the next 3 to 4 years. But I was checking out my contract. They don't have the audio rights.
Ooh.
So I've been pushing it towards audio, and I've got a guy who's going to be doing it on YouTube pretty soon. I had a person in New York help me do an audio thing for it, but he got COVID, so that kind of went downhill. Things like that. Just when someone has the story, then they kind of have the story, and you can't do anything with it. And if they don't push it, you don't get any money. I mean, it's all up to them to market and to push it and stuff. So they really have all the control. Now, if it's my story, I can push it as much as I want, and I have the control. So, and I have the money too. It's none of this 80-20 bullshit that I've had in some of these small presses where they get 80 and you get 20. You do all the work, but they get 80, which is bullshit.
I'm with you, most definitely.
For your audiobook,
I'm sorry. I am
my bad.
self-published, and as far as I have friends on both sides of the spectrum, and yeah, total control it's hard when you write a story. It's an intimacy. So then when you turn around and release it to someone, you're praying that they care as much about it as you do. And like she said, I have to agree. They can sit on the shelf and it's like,
oh,
hey, what am I doing? And you go on to the next story and, oh, we're so interested in that. And then you go on to the next and it becomes this,
it gets lost.
Yeah.
It gets lost.
And so do you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I worked with a house where I got lost. He kept telling me, oh no, you're going to be the face. We're going to make you the face of blankety blank house. And I'm like, sure. Because it would be like here Facebook posting, here's the book, and then you never see it again. And that's just my little beef about it is that they don't care about you. They don't care. They're just, what's the next flavor? What's the next flavor? Or they just, I don't know what, like for instance, Rumble, when Rumble got picked up by, what was, I forgot the name of the little place. Anyway, they produced it as an ebook, which is fine. But I kept the print rights and I printed it. I published it after I got tired of, I've never received a dime from that house. So I published Rumble under Third Crow, and I've done a lot better with it. I got a great layout with a friend of mine who did the artwork and the layout. And I mean, it's all out of my pocket. I'll never make the money back probably, but it's a great book and it's a great layout. And I got to play with it and do all kinds of great stuff. It was a lot of fun, a lot better than the really crappy ebook they put out. It's terrible.
It's liberating when you make all the choices.
Again, it is expensive.
Win, lose, or draw.
Yes.
You know, that's pretty much how I feel about it. Now, Alan, tell us what your feelings is. What your feelings are
about this, about the self-publishing thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I tried. I was really thrilled many years ago. I got picked up by a small press, and I thought I'd made it. They sold practically nothing, and I found out many years later that the press consisted of one lady, very nice lady. I actually sat down and met her one day, and she confessed and she said, "You know what? I'm the public. It's me, just on my own." And I said, "Yeah, but don't you have like a team of marketers?" And she said, "No, I have nobody, and I have no idea how to market." So I was like, what the hell am I doing with you?
Yeah, what am I doing here?
So
Go on YouTube, sweetie.
Yeah, I pulled out this year from that.
Yeah.
But I have been self-publishing for about 2 or 3 years now, and on a real learning curve. And I learned so much in the past 2 years. I still haven't nailed it by any means, but I've learned so much that now, even though I consider myself a beginner, it's funny. I see people who are just starting out, and they see me as this kind of guru. But I'm not. I'm just someone who's made a lot of mistakes, and I like to share that. I like to share the mistakes I've made to help others not make the same mistakes.
What programs do you use for your layout?
I use InDesign.
Me too. That's what I'm learning. I'm teaching myself InDesign right now.
It's fantastic.
It is.
I used Microsoft Word for my manuscript layout.
I did that for all my other ones, but right now I'm trying to learn InDesign.
That's fine. But if you do comic and graphic novels, you need something a bit more.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
InDesign does the job, but it's a great program. It's worth learning.
I've heard the learning curve on that is a little steep, but once you figure it out, then it's just like mind blowing.
Yeah, it's actually really intuitive once you get the general Adobe system. The good thing about the Adobe Suite is that all the programs have similar. They have a similar way of working. So once you learn one, you pretty much fall into the others pretty easily. And so I use Photoshop a lot, and that was, for me, the jump from Photoshop to InDesign was quite natural. And it's I learned it on my own, you know. But now I'm actually doing a course on InDesign to just get it right.
I've been teaching myself watching YouTube videos and buying books. But I have a friend who actually teaches it at a local college, and he's offered to teach me if I need help. But it's cool. I think I'm doing okay for right now. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm teaching myself how to. Also, it's kind of nice to have on your resume if you have for your day job. You know, I'm sure we all have day jobs, right?
Yeah.
Just push the button, see what happens.
Day jobs. I'm assuming everybody here has a day job.
We all have day
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was figuring.
Of course.
When you guys were asking about self-publishing, like self-publishing is fun. It's great. It's easy. I'm pretty busy. It would be nice to have somebody who could actually take care of marketing for me and do the thing that, frankly, I don't have a skill set at, even though I actually studied marketing in college, but I haven't done it in 25, 30 years. So it would be very nice to, I didn't even try to get really into a publisher. I just thought, I'll publish it myself. And then after I realized how hard it is to get people to, you know, get onto social media, pay attention to you, get things sold, like a publisher would be nice. I would be willing to give up a fair amount of my proceeds to have somebody do all this BS.
As long as they do the marketing, though.
Yes,
the marketing is they're useless. They're not adding any value to my life because I know how to book, I know how to do a cover, I know how to write, I know how to find editors, what I really need is somebody to go out and help me market a book in a meaningful way.
Who
Yeah,
has
same
the
here.
That's
connections
what I would want a publisher
to
to
get
do.
to the people?
That's
Yeah.
right.
I always
hear
thought
you.
that publishing was, I need somebody to go and run a press, like print my book. It's like, no. They need to publicize it. And I'm like, oh, now I get that. I didn't really make
publicist,
that connection. And
Yeah.
having a publicist is better than a publisher.
Oh yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Out there to make the waves, to get your name out
Publicists are
there.
amazing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Publicist.
definitely on board. And actually, I wanted to introduce my daughter, Eliana.
Hi.
Everyone,
Hi,
I know we
Eliana.
kind of jumped right on, but she jumps in when she can, and helps me out, which is amazing. I love spending the time with her. So
Is she your publicist?
I'm just saying, and she's my
She's
publicist.
amazing.
That's what I was hoping you were
Trust
going to
me.
say.
What's the name of your skeleton behind?
this is Orpheus. He is my muse.
All right.
Wow.
He's,
Like-
Very cool.
he's an actor. He's in my videos, and he is insanely beautiful to me. Although
Very nice.
our neighbors kind of look through the window and you can see his silhouette. So yeah, they think I'm kind of questionable.
That's home security.
They get a kick out of me. What can I say? You know,
Yeah.
The skeleton in your window, it's home security. We had a clown once in our window. Nobody ever broke into our house.
it's good to make them wonder.
Always makes them wonder.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
when anyone is writing a story, this is for anyone or all of you. When someone is writing a story or you're writing a story, how long does it take you from start to finish? And I'm not saying editing, but from the moment that you collectively just get your thoughts together on paper and then you turn around and go, how many times would you modify it and how long would you say your process actually is? Because I know I have been asked this question so many times.
Yeah, me too. I
And
hate this question.
It's
Not
Every story is different.
And everyone's different.
Every story is different. I mean, it also depends on if I have a contract. If I have a contract and it's a deadline, I once had a guy contact me on a Sunday and said, look, I need one more story for this anthology. Can you write one? And I'm like, well, what is it? I need something superheroes in a steampunk world. And I'm like, I don't know jack about steampunk, but I will write this. Okay, sure. I'll help you out. How many words do you need? Blah, blah, blah. He's like 10,000 words. That's easy. No problem. When do you need it? Friday. So I've got like less than 7 days to pump out a story in a genre I do not know. So I can do it. I did it. I did it. It's not a great story. It got published. And then when the rights came back to me, I reread it and was like, oh my God. And good skeleton, just needed some meat. And I republished it.
Kind of like Orpheus.
Oh,
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yes. And I
Exactly.
republished under a thingy. But for me, every story is different. Also, if you give me a deadline, it kind of gives me an impetus.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
if I'm left on my own, oh my God, it can take me 6 months. But that's also including, again, I'm thinking like a small novel, not a huge thing. The research, because I do a lot of research, even though my stuff is pretty fantastical and monsters and whatever, I do a lot of research. I do a lot of
That's
research
good.
on the monsters and the myths and the legends that I use in my stories. So it can take up to 6 months. The Crown of Feathers that I've been writing that thing for about 7 months now, but I keep getting pulled away for other projects.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that
It's-
happens. Also
It happens.
life gets in the way.
I think
Yeah,
a lot
life.
of times people, when they hear like you're a writer or, oh, I could write, like they don't understand there's actually like a research component to it. So
much.
when they ask that question, right, it's like, oh, how long does it take you to normally, write a book? I've been thinking about writing a book. I don't know how much time to set aside. It's just like, well, how much, time do you want to spend into researching these different things, or do you just want to put stuff on paper, hope for the best, right? And it can be, it's varying. Like I started my novel on like a July 4th. And then I just wrote literally every day because I had no relationship and I was depressed. So like I had nothing else to do. But I found my future wife, who I'm married to now, and I wrote a lot less because I was much happier in spending time with somebody. So
family, loved
yeah,
ones, they
There's
want
just
to
like-
spend time
lunch.
with you.
Making lunch for your kids.
yeah,
Chops the day in two, doesn't it?
it does. It's like it's like you can write a novel or a story, however long it wants to be, kind of as quickly as your life will dictate, and as how much research and prep you want to put into it.
Right.
Now, did you find that your story changed and took a romantic turn with your wife?
It took a happier tone from kind of the depression-laden first draft, but actually I found that because my personal book is like 175,000 words. It's epic novel size, right? And it's going to be 10 books in total. And I found that when I would take longer breaks away from it, a couple of weeks, a month, and then come back to it, I had these fresh ideas, these twists that I hadn't really necessarily thought of the first time, because everybody's first draft are like, this is a perfect story, I've done nothing wrong, and then you wait 5 minutes and you're like, I've written crap, what have I done? So
the
I
first
think
draft is your vomit draft.
Right?
That's just a bleh, and then or my sister-in-law calls it the putty draft because she's the good sister. I'm the not good sister, and so she's it's the putty draft. It's the one you can use to mold and make. No, it's usually first drafts are crap, and that's fine. Oh my gosh,
that's how you learn. That's precisely what I got one. You learn every time you rip up a piece of paper that some idea or concept, think of it as, oh my God, this spring, and I have a fresh new idea waiting in the wings to jump out.
Well, Terry Pratchett said the first draft is just you telling the story.
Yeah.
And the editing and the second draft is you actually crafting the story.
Exactly.
Because I've taught a lot of writing workshops, and when I get people will bring in their stuff, and I'll tell them, this is great, get rid of those first 3 chapters, you don't need them, the story starts here. And they get like, but it doesn't matter, the story starts here. Your ego has got to be tossed out. Everything is the story. You don't matter. The story is what matters. And people have a hard time understanding that you have to get rid of this. It's the story. Does the story start here? The story starts there.
But what about all those beautiful words and phrases you came up with in those first 3 chapters that you're so in love with?
You know what?
Kill your children, darlings. Kill your darlings.
Yeah, it's not kill your children.
Exactly.
Kill your children.
I don't feel that way. I don't know.
I got 1 million words hiding. I'm not worried.
I got so many voices in my head. Trust me. I got other. No. I'd be the worst god ever. I would be just be apocalypse, and just no. I got other worlds. Fuck you. I'm out. Yeah. So I'd be the worst god. Never give me superpowers. It'll be bad. It'll be so bad.
Steampunk world. Don't give her superpowers.
Now, which one of you? I had heard that one of you actually gets very emotional when they're writing. Do you find that you have certain emotions that you draw from when you're writing that you don't realize until when it's finished and you have that final draft and you're like, wow, I where did I go with this? But everyone else, it's very revealing. And, the best thing I think is after you've written something, you take it and give it to someone else. If it touches them with the exact emotion that you're trying to draw out, you got it.
You got it.
That light bulb moment where you're like, ha, 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 I got you crying, or I got you laughing, or whatever, emotion that you're trying to pull. And so does anyone have that same?
I've had that moment.
I love when I scare the hell out of people.
Well,
I can't tell.
I was writing a story called Almost Jenny. And again, I was just writing it for fun. It's never been published. It probably never will be published because it's probably crap. But there's this one section in it where basically it's about this woman whose child is dead. The child is like on a ventilator in the house, and the kid is basically dead. Spirit's been walking around the house. Anyway, so she has this one night with her baby, with her child, where she gets to spend a night before the child has to cross over. So I'm writing it, and I don't know, it just hit something in here, and I'm crying. I'm talking ugly snot, just ugly cry as I'm trying to type this thing out. And my husband comes upstairs and he sees me, and he's just like, what? And does somebody hurt you? Somebody said something to you? No. And he goes, what? He was all ready to go kick someone's ass. And I said, he goes, oh God. He just closed the laptop. Said, okay, we're going for a walk now. It's 9:00 at night. I'll get my gun. It's cool. We'll go for a walk because we live in a bad neighborhood, and we got to get away. But it was. So after I wrote that, and then when I let my friends read it, because I've only a few friends have ever read that story. Yes, they all cried at that section. And I was like,
Beautiful.
Yes. Or if you've ever read a story that grosses people out, or they like, I have a story called Coon Hunt, and it's kind of my litmus test. Whenever I join a group, I let them read it, and if they get it, you're my people. If you don't get it, you're not my people. So, but what's great is the first time I ever wrote it, I gave it to my college professor, and she was this Yankee who didn't know anything at all about the South. So she reads it, and she's thinking it's a tall tale, to which I said, really? Read it again. And then when she realizes it's basically a story about a lynching, she's like, oh, that's horrible. I'm like, yes. I love that. I have tainted you with my words. I win. So, but have you guys done that? I mean,
anyone else?
Alan, tainted people with your words?
Yeah.
Are the women in this group the evil ones?
Oh, girl, I know I'm evil, so I have no problem with that.
I'm certainly not evil.
One and
I'm a crone. We don't take any crap.
Go with Alan. Alan, do you ever have like emotional outcomes or
well, you know,
with your
not really, because what I'm drawing and writing is like real world situations. But what I do find is that I take on expressions of my characters sometimes,
like
unconsciously while I'm drawing them.
Yeah.
So I tend to, when my character is surprised, I surprise myself, you know, and I'm making all these faces and that's an emotional connection with my character.
Yeah.
Because I have to imbue the character with my emotion so that it's believable. Mm-hmm. And to do that, I apply my emotion to it. So in a way, yes. In a way, I haven't cried over it because it's not that kind of subject.
Not that kind of story.
But I think what you described, Nikki, is definitely tier-worthy material. Oh. You know, but yeah, I do apply the emotion that way.
What about you, Sean?
Yeah, in my book, the protagonist and his friends are all around 16, 17 years old. So they have, you know, the full spectrum of crazy teenage emotions, right? And they're all, you know, hyper accelerated because, you know, when you're a teenager, you feel everything 1,000-fold. Yeah. So they're dealing with, you know, their ideas of what like love are, but, you know, it's probably more of like infatuation, but to them, it's like the end of the world. And they're dealing, you know, not to be too spoilery, but like there's some death in there, right? You know, with characters that they know, and they have to deal with that for kind of the first time, and they're dealing with sorrow and heartbreak, and they're dealing with these really happy moments as well. So it's a lot of, you know, roller coastering, and a lot of it is since the book is from the perspective of one of my main protagonists, who's a boy, he sees everything kind of like teenage boy, right? Like everything's kind of black and white. Everything's, you know, everybody is one way. There's no real depth of their characters. There's these ideas of what, you know, chivalry are, and what, you know, the boy saves the girl kind of thing. And these other characters, he doesn't really see it, but you can kind of catch it by the subtext. Like they have depth, they have ideas, they have agency, and they don't necessarily need him to go around saving them, right? So there's a lot of like turning it on its head of you're following Oliver, who's the character, and he's going, hey, I'm gonna be this hero, right? And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh wait, I don't need to be the hero. And there's a lot of, you know, dealing with that and dealing with kind of depression in friendship and how to get out of it, and those situations. And I've had a lot of, I like to call them alpha readers, which are readers that are reading it almost near the same time I'm writing it. So like I finish a chapter or two and like I send it to them immediately,
Yeah.
and instead of waiting till the end just to be like, I need some instant feedback on these things. And a lot of them would get the reaction that I want, right? Not necessarily the reaction I'm feeling, but you know, I want them to be frustrated at my protagonist because he's doing something dumb, and I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I want. Or I want them to feel sad or happy or elated, or you know, on an exciting ride. So that's definitely like, especially for this book, emotion is a big thing, and kind of the full range of emotions that, you know, teenagers feel. With my middle grade books, I'm really focusing on kind of, you know, they're smaller in scale, they're smaller in size, they're smaller in idea, right? So it's more of that kind of afternoon kids episode on Nickelodeon or Disney Channel, right? Where they're like kind of dealing with one thing and one emotion and how to deal with that emotion. And then over time, those things kind of build upon each other to create more complex emotions and ideas. So, I mean, I don't think even Alan talking about, you know, his expressions of his characters and stuff, I think emotion is always riddled throughout anything we write, whether it's, you know, an academic paper or, you know, a fantasy novel or whatnot. And getting emotion out of readers is kind of
Our
what
job.
it's what authors use for crack, right?
Basically, yeah.
Because, you know, crack is bad,
Yes.
boys and girls. But you know, the in lieu of
We're covered. It's adults. Go ahead.
in lieu of the hard drugs, right? We want to make people cry, or we want to make them laugh, or we want to make them feel happy or sad or confused, right? I think confusion is an emotion that gets portrayed often in books, but isn't really talked about because confusion is confusing.
It's hard to do confusion for long,
right?
Because
So,
the readers, I get bored. I'm like, okay, now you're just messing with me. I ain't got time for this.
well, I don't think confusion for the sake of, you know, throwing them off. Like, we're not talking about season
House
8 of
of
Game
Leaves?
of Thrones.
I couldn't get through House of Leaves. You guys tried reading House of Leaves?
I've heard of it.
I just can't. My daughter says it's great. I'm too stupid, obviously. I'm like, my ADHD kicks in. And I do not have time. So,
But like, I mean, like, this isn't season 8 of Game of Thrones, right? We're not just trying to do twist and confusion for the sake of twist and confusion, right? It's more of ambiguity. Like, let's take some concepts, let's take some emotions, let's take some ideas, let's make it a little bit more ambiguous, so that way, as an author, you know, we're saying something, but as a reader, you're taking it however you're reading it, right? And that adds a level of complexity and richness to whatever they're reading, and that's why people fall in love, you know,
and kind of gives you some other outs too. You can change things around. It doesn't exactly sew you into one plot line.
Right. It's like, is Snape the villain or is Snape a hero? And it's like, you know, you have people in each camp.
I like keeping them wondering. From start to finish, if you know who did it and when they did it and why they did it, and you know,
I failed.
I have failed. I'm done.
Yeah, I have several characters in my Jake Ishton-Hedgie. Like Mama Effie. You think she's just an absolute horrible person, but no, she. Spoilers. By the end of the 6th book, you realize that, oh no, she's the only thing keeping his ass alive. She's been basically pulling the strings to keep him alive. But he doesn't know that. Jake, the main character, he doesn't know. He thinks she's just terrible. But maybe she's kind of my Snape in a way. Never thought about it like that.
I think the thing is playing with perspective, right? Because, you know, what are we going to say? Like 80% of all books have this like very specific idea around, we follow a character, we follow, you know, a set of 3 characters, and they all have these very unique and kind of focal point of views. Right. And if you take a step back out of that and maybe go, hey, what do these other side characters think, or what are these random people we might not even see in the books but we know are kind of there in the periphery think, then you start to say, oh, maybe they didn't know, for instance, that this person's been pulling strings to keep me alive the whole time. And that's what makes it kind of interesting, because then you reflect back on your own self and you're like, okay, well, I go through my life in this narcissistic idea of like, I'm living and these are my kids, but in reverse order, I'm their dad, or I'm their mom, or I'm this person's friend. How do they see me, and how do I affect their lives? And it's interesting. Like, being an author is really cool.
As a writer, you really need to be kind of Janus minded, in that you should be able to see both sides all the time, because we're having to see both sides all the time. Your villain needs to have its own reason why it's doing what it's doing. I mean, just killing people or just destroying the world just for the sake of it's really stupid and no fun at all.
And I feel like the perspective has their perspective has to be always changing. They're either learning something, they're exploring something, or they're just going nowhere. And if you have a character that if they're not exploring anything and they're not getting to the point of the story, what are you doing with them?
Adaptation or elimination.
That's the most frustrating characters. I mean, I see that in movies a lot, where I can watch 10 minutes of the movie and I'm like, no, I'm out. And they're like, why? And I'm like, I already know where this is going.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Does anyone else feel as though when you sit down to write a story that actually, do you sit down to write a story? I am someone that I work on my feet a lot. I walk through the woods. I have Orpheus, who is, yes, my muse, my main man.
Does he go for walks with you in the woods?
Yes, he actually
I want to see that. Okay.
Watch the video. Yes. But I mean, I can go out on my balcony and I'll be out there acting out things, and they think I'm speaking in tongues. It's hilarious, because some of my neighbors will be like, hey, how you doing? Because they know.
Yeah.
They're like, you'll learn. She's been here forever and this is what she does. This is just her, you know? But do you guys find that your neighbors and like other people, they know precisely what you do before you tell them?
I mean, I sit down and I'm extremely boring when I write. I write from this time to this time every single day. Mm-hmm. I write in lots of different ways. I'll write on the bus. I'll write on my phone. I write on my phone a lot, actually. But there's a this time to this time that I fit into my life, and I turn everything off and I just do it. I don't walk around and my neighbors don't hear me gesticulating loudly or anything like that. So no, I don't do that. But everything else that everybody said about emotion and acting things out with, when I write about the thing I hate writing is, she was sad. I don't like, obviously don't write that. So I do these things where I'll put myself into an emotional state, and then I'll try to feel in my body where things feel, what's tight, what's hot, what's making my cheeks hurt, so that I can describe those things. And so I do it while sitting down in my chair. I'm not like walking around the neighborhood though. So, and then you were also talking about emotion earlier, about feeling the emotion that you feel. I feel that way when I make descriptions. When I say something, I will sit there and iterate for 20 times in a couple of sentences to describe, I don't know, the way a tree looks. I don't know, whatever it is. And sometimes I'll go, and I'll get that thing where I'm like, I nailed it. And then I know that when I give it to somebody, they'll feel and see it the same way. So I feel that. And I also dictate sometimes when I'm writing. And so I will walk around with my headset on and talk to myself as I'm on a walk in the morning. And so,
what do you use to dictate?
I just, I use what I do a lot is I'll write on Word, or I'll write in Google Docs. I kind of go back and forth, and I'll just dictate right into my phone, right into the doc. And then later I go and clean up the horrible crap that it writes.
Yeah, that is writing.
Well, this is really bad writing, because like the word is wrong and capital.
The process.
But it gives you that dump. You're talking about the earlier about like the moldable thing. I always call writing sculpting. You get your block of
granite, your putty,
way at it. And so dictating is just such a bad job, that your unformed block of marble is really unformed. And so it's really a creative process. So,
but that's your process.
It is my process. I do.
You know? I mean, I could see you. My son has a way of walking through the house. And instantly he's thinking, because if you try to distract him, it's one of those, what? you know?
He's like a cat and you caught him.
Yeah, he's continuously thinking about, because, you know, he has a pretty amazing job and he has to think on his feet, and he delivers a lot of conventions. He does a lot of conventions and things like that. And it's hilarious to watch him. And yet he'll make fun of me and I'll make fun of him. You know, I'm like, hey, that's your process, this is mine. You know, but he will also, when I have an idea or a video or something, some concept, he's all in.
Cool.
My daughter is all in. You know, it's a family affair. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is my next lead-in question. Do you have friends or family or someone whom not only reads your work, but will indulge you as far as give you feedback on maybe you should do this, or what do you think of that? Or is there anyone who
beta
works
readers
with you?
Yeah. I have a little pool of beta readers.
You use beta readers. Okay. Anyone else?
The first thing I do is I tell my wife, hey, I had this great idea. And she says, no, you didn't.
I love her.
and she's probably saved me more time and struggle and temptation to do and write stupid things than any person ever. And then my daughter is actually an extremely gifted writer. She's 13. And she actually will sit down and I'll say, hey, I'll read this thing to her. And she'll go. And then she'll say things like, you need a dog.
Yes.
Pop the dog into my last book. So both my wife and my daughter are extremely good. And then I do have beta readers all over the place and lots of beta readers.
Yeah, my family also is my husband's not a writer. He's not a creative, but man, we just talk, we just dish out. But my kids, both of them, are very creative. And the boy is merciless. He is just, this is shit. The girl is much better. She's much more, okay, you know, we can probably find a way in which to make this better. But no, they're both really good. But yeah, they're the ones I can go to. But I have a little pool of beta readers, and it also depends upon, of course, what genre that I'm dealing with. But yeah, I have a little pool that I go to.
Now, I've been asked by fellow writers, inexperienced writers starting out, they've asked, how do you go about getting beta readers? That seems to be a problem for a lot of people. And I have tons of other people. I mean, I've never used the beta readers. My version of beta readers I have a huge amount of friends who have extensive kind of purposes in publishing and things like that. So, I mean, is it difficult to get feedback?
I want to know what Alan has with graphic novel beta readering. Like, how does
not easy. I do struggle to find them. I have a very small group, like 2 or 3 friends, one of whom works in the publishing industry for academic books. And, you know, he gives feedback that's very tailored to the education market. But what that feedback always is I need to lose so much of what makes my books unique. Because my humor is satire, and it's sometimes offensive because I don't follow the rules of making everything Disney squeaky clean.
I hate that.
And that's just me. You know, I'm not going to change that because that is my muse. And so his feedback is always, oh, I'd get rid of the alcohol and get rid of the cigars in the bad guy's hand because you're telling kids it's okay to smoke and drink. And I'm like, well, actually I am.
Yeah.
But so I do struggle with beta readers for comics and graphic novels, and also because adults generally consider it, there's a bit of a perception that comics and graphic novels are for kids.
They're stupid. Graphic novels are awesome.
Yeah. So adults they're like, well, you know, I'll try and get my 9-year-old to look at it, but that doesn't work. So I do struggle with beta readers. Yeah.
The stuff I read, no 9-year-old should read. Okay. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, I do.
Now, is anyone into anime, or have you actually watched animes? Because a lot of they have a lot of satirical kind of content in them, and some of the stories, like Death Note, for instance, it matches what I write, which, you know, it's astounding to me. And I mean, I love it. That was like my new fix is watching the animes, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the whole world there,
It is,
you know.
And you know, I think it's untapped in the US. I don't
In the
think
US.
very often.
Yeah, here it is.
Yeah,
It's pretty much a subculture here.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's huge in Seattle as a subculture. So like, there's tons
In
of.
Tennessee, it's still very much a subculture.
Yeah.
They have a convention once a year, and I've gone to it, and it's so funny to see. I mean, mainly, I always feel like a perv because I'm this 50-year-old person with these little 12-year-olds dressed like Inuyasha. But it's still very much a subculture here.
Now, is that actually, is it like a, what do they call it? Comic-Con or one of those? What type of event is it?
Oh God, what was it? It's called, I don't remember. MTAC's what they call it, but don't ask me what it stands for. They had a problem a couple of years ago. One of the main guys got busted for being a pedophile. So they've been having a problem getting back on track. So they haven't had an MTAC in about 2 years now.
Gosh.
But again, COVID. So, but yeah, but the pedophilia didn't help either.
No.
No.
Never does. Doesn't help. Never helps anything.
Never
No.
the right.
No.
But switching back to finding beta readers,
Back to the beta readers.
Pedophiles to beta readers.
You're no fun.
They're all in jail, like beta.
but you had a question about, you know, a lot of people ask, you know, where to find beta readers or how do you find beta readers, right? And I think this is where, you know, looking online in different corners of the internet, Facebook has a bajillion groups that are dedicated for people who want to be beta readers and want people to find them to be beta readers, right? And, you know, or going on Twitter, or going on, you know, Readsy, or all these different kind of reading and writing focused websites, or even just these giant social media companies. There's a lot of people out there who not only are willing to be beta readers, but like really enjoy doing the work and aren't just there to be like, yeah, I would love to read, you know, a book, and then kind of never get back to you. Like, they take it pretty seriously, because I think ultimately, you know, when you involve people in the process, then they feel like they have a stake in it, right? And they feel like they're a part of it, and they feel like they're a part of something bigger, and that just, you know, releases endorphins and makes people happy. So I think when people ask like, hey, where am I going to find a beta reader? You know, obviously we all kind of have our friends and family beta readers, right? But if you want something a little bit quote unquote more objective, where people, you know, don't know you, there's definitely places out there. You just kind of have to look for it. And then, you know, maybe it'll take you a couple of tries, but there's definitely a lot of people willing, which is really cool.
I have been lucky enough to get some beta readers who are technical professionals in the area that I write in, which is nonfiction. So it's like, in my case, it's climate change. I was very lucky to get a beta reader from West Africa who agreed to read it from the perspective of his part of the world as a climate activist in West Africa, because part of my next book is located in West Africa. And I wanted to get a feel for the local perceptions, to make sure I'm not writing this like the typical northerner, you know, the European or the northern guy who's assuming stuff about a different part of the world. And I met him on Twitter. So as you say, Sean, Twitter is a very useful thing in that sense. And he agreed to, and he loved it. You know, his feedback was fantastic. His feedback was, I love it. And that's the best feedback.
That's the best kind of beta reader you could get.
But I could see that he was also being objective, because he was saying, you know, I like the way you've done this. I would maybe tweak that a little bit to make it a bit more realistic. But social media, you're right, and you can reach out. And if you do nonfiction in any sense, you know, you can reach out to those people who make a living in that area. Right. And they will probably also write you an editorial review, which is very useful.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's important about beta reading from the author's perspective is understanding, you know, what you're asking for and then what you are expecting to receive back, right? So I made a huge mistake. I have a friend who's an English teacher in Brooklyn, and I was like, I finished my first draft. I'll send it to you. Can you read it? And I had no idea what I wanted from him. He was my friend, and he reads a lot of books, so I was just like, throw everything at the wall, be like, give me any feedback that you want. And the poor guy, he like printed out the entire thing on paper and went through it like he was an English teacher,
Right.
like fixing mistakes and stuff. And I still have that draft, but I've changed that entire story dramatically, right? So it's like when you go to ask your beta readers, you know, go in with a specific set of like, I want to know, you know,
That's a good
developmentally,
idea.
what do you think about it, you know, from a plot
It's a great
perspective?
idea.
Or
timid line.
I'm looking
Yeah.
for things that make sense. Or sometimes I asked friends like, hey, I'm on writing Twitter all day, and all these people are publishing books and throwing their one lines, and they're awesome and amazing people, and I feel like crap, and I think I wrote, you know, a pile of shit. Can you read my book and tell me that I'm a good writer? And if not, then just don't tell me anything at all. And, you know, that's a perfectly acceptable beta read, right?
Yes.
Sometimes you just
Yeah.
need a little pick me up of being like,
A
hey,
little head rub is always good. Just someone tell me I'm pretty, okay? Just,
Right?
you're
You
very,
know?
very
There you
pretty.
go.
So pretty.
I think the floor is like, you didn't write crap, and that's kind of what I wanted. You know, anything above that would be great. But you know, setting correct expectations with your beta readers and seeking ones out for specific reasons, right? Don't just say, read my book, tell me what you think. It's like, read my book and tell me what you think in this kind of lens of what I want, right?
Absolutely.
Developmentally, plot wise, character wise, emotion wise. You know, maybe you want them to do kind of spot proofreading ahead of time or whatnot, but just making sure you're not wasting their time, and also you're getting the feedback that you need.
Now,
That's
on
pretty
that
important.
note, I have a question. Does getting their feedback, once you've gotten it, have you had someone just totally annihilate something you've written? And
My-
how did you deal with that? Or how
Yeah.
did you appreciate it, or did you kind of let them have it?
I
Oh
love
God,
it.
no.
I think that's a big problem when it
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
to
No, no,
people
no, no, no.
leaving reviews. They're afraid
No,
that
no, no.
they're going to leave a bad review. And part of, I mean, when we're growing up and we're in school, you have to be critiqued. You have to be. You know, we're in a profession where it's nice when I know a lot of things can be released as easily as they can be nowadays. Sometimes it's not the best idea to
There's
just
a lot of crap out
release
there.
it off of your own. Oh, I think I did an amazing job. Well,
Ugh, yeah.
you
Good
kind
for
you.
of need it. If you
Need a
intend on
wake-up
being
call.
in the business long enough and selling the product long enough, you kind of got to have that feedback. And
I
those
like my
reviews
feedback
matter.
I like my feedback before I sell. I like someone to give me
Yeah.
horrible feedback that I can fix before I publish. So please do that. I don't like bad reviews. I like bad feedback. Before, like from my beta readers and my editor, I had to rewrite. I didn't have to rewrite. I probably rewrote 60% of my book between my beta readers and my editors from my first. I mean, just little things here and there moving around, but on balance, it was probably 60% of my book was rewritten, and I loved it. It was fantastic and it was great. I don't like getting bad reviews.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause
I
Yeah.
don't think anyone does, but it does happen. I mean,
Happens.
even he was speaking of Twitter. I know on Twitter, there's a lot of people that will come on and they're like, oh, I just got a really horrible review for this or that. And the first thing that, you know, I've been asked a couple different times and they're like, what do you think? What should I do? And I said, you need to take stock. You need to go back, read it through, ask someone else to read it through, and then go and speak to that person if you can. What did you not like about it? Or what did you see? You know, give me some perspective here, because I'm that person. I want to know what you're thinking.
do you guys?
Now, I don't like that little cloud over what someone's thinking. I want to know. I'm a big girl. I can take it. You're not going to hurt my feelings.
do
You
guys-
know, you're going to hurt my feelings if you lie to me. So I need to know, you know, And I know on Twitter that is a big thing right there. Like every other thing for one weekend, a couple weeks ago, it was about reviews. And should we buy reviews? Is that a good idea? And I'm thinking, with the buying reviews, do they even review it?
They
Or
do
are
not.
you
No.
buying, like, what are
Bad practice.
you buying? What is
Bad
it?
practice.
I think that's a marketing thing. But out of curiosity, so a lot of you, I think all of us are self-published authors. Do you ever get reviews, like, I don't know, from Amazon or Goodreads, go back and change your manuscript and then republish? Or do you guys, once you're published, you're done?
No.
So for me, once I published, I was done because I spent, thousands of dollars on a professional editor because I didn't want to, send something out into the world that didn't make a lot of sense, right? So, speaking back to what kind of big changes happen and critiques that I change between reads, it's like the editor took all of my beautiful words and descriptions and she was just like, hey, you should get rid of this and get rid of this and get rid of this. And I saved you 8,000 words. And I'm just like, but my words. And I was
the flavor,
like,
the blood.
I know. And I complained to my wife. I'm like, she took all away my fluff. And my wife is like, well, you read me some of your fluff and I didn't know what you were saying. And I was like, but my fluff. And so I think there's the difference, right, between, final published, you're never going to touch this thing again, unless it's like, spot proofreading, uploading of manuscripts, right? And after that, I got like, 2-star, 3-star review the other day, and it hurts a little bit. You want every single person to love the cake you make. But then at the end of the day, I watch a lot of Great British Bake Off right now, and I'm just like, right? And I'm just like, you know what?
It was soggy bottom. That's what I want.
Right. So I'm like, not everybody loves, a vanilla cake. I love a good vanilla cake. I can be a vanilla person sometimes. I like a good chocolate as well. But, some people they're like vanilla cake's bland. And sometimes they try the food and it just doesn't go well with them. And literally the person next to them is like, this is the best cake I've ever had. And so when you're thinking about, after published reviews, right? Like you're never touching your manuscript again. We're not talking about beta readers. We're talking about like random people across the world who have read your book and they
bought your book.
They bought your
money
book
for it.
They spent money. They got it for free off the dark web. Who knows? And they're like, I give this 2 stars. I give this 3 stars. I give this 4 stars. Because ultimately we live in a 5-star society. Everybody wants 5 stars, right? So anything less than a 5-star, you're just like, what did I do to hurt you and your family? But really, it's just like, sometimes it's just, it's not their cup of tea. Like for me, a lot of people have been like, we didn't like the characters, or it was a little bit too slow. And then literally on the other hand, I get like messages from people saying like, I love these characters. I love the pacing. Like I love the slow build. And like, sometimes certain books aren't for certain people.
I have a slow build
too. And people do the exact same thing. What I figured out is the first half and the second halfers of my book, people were like, oh, the slow build was so intense and I really liked it. And then it got all fast and stuff at the end. And I've got people like, I almost put it down, but then the end was crazy and I loved it. And it's like I've got first and second halfers of my book. But the reason I was asking is like when I did my thing, I published on Amazon and I did the ebook, and then I did the audio book. And while going through with my guy who was doing that, I would find things and I would fix them. Then I'd fix them on the manuscript and then re-upload it. So I was always uploading my e-copy. So now my e-copy and my Audible book match. And then I paperback published it. So I actually updated it. It wasn't based on the reviews. That was just kind of a curiosity, but I actually updated my book in real time.
For my Jake Ishinheji series, once I got the rights back for all the 6 books, when I got the rights back, I reread them and realized, because it's a long story, but anyway, I rewrote, especially the very first story, rewrote it and actually kind of polished the arc that was going on, because this was a series that kind of developed. So I was able to polish it and have more fun with it. And that's what I did. Once I got all the rights back to the Jake Ishinheji stuff, and then I was able to put them in both 2 volumes. And the very last book, I left a teaser for the 7th book, if I ever write it. If I don't, I don't. Doesn't matter. It's my books. But yeah, that's what I did. I Yeah, I did. Once it wasn't so much because of the critiques, because the very first story got good reviews, had one bad review, 1 star. Woman absolutely despised it, said it was stupid. Voodoo chickens,
ran
what's the
over her
stupid
cat, that's
stuff?
what happened.
Zombie chickens, what is this? And then I was like, who is this person? So I looked her up. Only thing she's ever bought on Amazon was chamomile tea and knitting needles. How the hell ever find my
You
book?
are not her cup of tea.
No. So, but anyway, as for would I change stuff from a bad review? Probably, unless it was like, yeah, you're right, man. Wow, I completely forgot about that.
The review is constructive. If it's negatively but constructive.
Right. If there's like a huge plot hole, you're like, oh crap, I forgot to.
Yeah.
Then go back and fix that.
Then you have to listen. But if there's a lot of review people out there who are haters, they just
trolls.
They just trolls.
I just think it's interesting that you can update it. Like that's kind of what I was thinking.
On Amazon. You go to like what is it? Crap, what's the other one?
Ingram Spark.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Because that costs you $50 every time you reload.
So a couple of things, right, about this, because something interesting about self-publishing that I've been on this journey for the last year or so is that the internet has a lot of information, but nobody tells you what to do, right?
Yeah.
And I just wanted one blog post that was just like, use Garamond, you stupid person. Like, don't use a different font. It's stupid. Use Garamond, you'll be fine. And like use these margins and blah blah blah. I wish there was that. But 2 things, right? One is about the re-uploading with your Amazon for KDP, is that you can re-upload in perpetuity. KDP doesn't care, right? 2 things to keep in mind is you have to change your ISBN technically if it's like big changes to your book, if it's not just like typos, but that's like here or there, no one really cares. But
no one knows what I do with my book.
Right. But the bigger thing is that even if you change it, like say you uploaded a new manuscript today, everybody who's purchased the ebook already previously has that original copy that's been downloaded, even Kindle Unlimited, right? So I had this really like dumb appendix where I wrote about why Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice was incorrectly portrayed Batman and Superman's friendship while I was thanking people. And I thought it was really hilarious. And my wife is like, you should probably take it out because it's confusing. And I was like, cool. And I took it out. But like some people who downloaded my ebook have it and some people don't. So that's that's one thing to keep in mind is like, yeah, you can change it for future readers, but
people have already bought Galvanized Girl, the very first edition.
Yeah.
Now that I've redone it with a new template and new illustrations.
Now it's worth more money.
Yeah. Well,
So, software. So I do this all the time. I change software out for many people day in and day out. So it's kind of
for Ingram Spark though, and this is really big for independent publishers, is that literally there is a promo code every month to have free revisions and free uploads. You just got to Google Ingram Spark promos. I haven't paid for one revision.
I'm writing that down.
I've done 10 revisions on my manuscript and I haven't paid for one of them. And I've done 3 uploads, haven't paid for one of them. Right.
Ooh.
So literally every time it's like half off, or towards the end of the year last year, it was full off. And if you can time it right and just pay attention and Google it, you don't have to pay for those types of things. But the thing with Ingram Spark is, unlike Amazon, Amazon's pretty instantaneous, right? It's like a 2 to 3 day lag on when you upload to when it's finished, and they're not waiting on like sales. Ingram Spark is like, we can't revise your manuscript until we've finished the orders that have already been placed. And if you have your own orders or family, or like, I don't know, maybe you have a fan, that'd be cool, who orders from Barnes & Noble and they get it through Ingram Spark, and you want to update the manuscript, like Ingram Spark first needs to finish delivering that book before they're like, oh yeah, now we'll update. So that can be a little bit of a time lag.
Yeah, that sounds difficult. Like
it's quite the world of figuring out, especially if I feel like publishing and self-publishing is kind of these 2 camps, right? It's one of people who are only ebooks and love their day because they only care about ebooks and they never care about printing, right? And then there's these other people who want to have print books as well. And and their whole worlds are very, very different in terms of like where they're going, who they're using, formatting, having to use InDesign, having to use these other programs. It's kind of crazy.
That's interesting to hear.
Yeah,
So
because
is everyone here an indie, or are you self-published? I mean, are you with a publishing house?
Indie.
I mean, I know that I had the publisher get in touch with me as far as interviews, but how do I put this? Do you have work that you released on your own before entering into the publishing house deal?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
what I'm trying to.
My stuff is all self-published. I found my publicist like after I'd published and got in touch with them. So I did it all myself.
Okay.
Indie as indie can be.
Okay, Alan?
Yeah, like I said before, I did do the publisher route, you know, and one of my books is still with them.
Okay.
They are selling a little bit, but the main books that I'm into right now, they're definitely indie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sean?
yeah, I mean, I'm completely indie since I decided I wanted to do a book, mostly because I come from a startup tech background from my, day job. And so the idea of being a little bit entrepreneurial and just trying to figure things out is exciting. Plus, the gatekeepers that it takes to get into, traditional publishing.
Oh, yeah.
When you're not looking at small press, right? Like small press, it's marginally easier, but it's still kind of hard. Like if you can get into small press, that's great. But in order to get into any of these larger publishers, you need to, first get the right agent. And getting an agent is crazy, especially, I work in the fantasy and speculative fiction world, and that is jam-packed right now with, amazing authors and a million indies, right? So it's just like, how do I break through with, this quote unquote, classic fantasy retelling, right? A lot of people are looking for kind of different books, but this is the story I wanted to tell because I like to say that you're going to want to write a story, or in Alan's case, draw a story that you want to read, 754 times, because you're going to have to read it that many times when you're editing and redrafting and stuff. And if you hate your story, then you're not going to have a fun time in the editing process, right? So for me, it's been indie the whole way. It's been really fun. It's been really hard. And there's a million things out there to like help you out, but it's wading through all of that stuff and finding kind of what works for you and what works for your
Where you fit
audience.
in. Yeah. Kind of where you fit in. So with everyone how do I put this? Who would you want throughout history, if you had to interview them? Who would be someone you would want to share time and possibly write a book with?
Write a book with or write a book about?
Either or, but they are your muse. They are physically there throughout history. Anyone.
Terry Pratchett.
And what kind of book would you like to write?
With Terry Pratchett? Oh, what I love about Terry Pratchett is how he was able to write a book that works on so many levels. If you're just reading any of his books, mainly the Discworld stuff, just for fun, you can do that. You can read Guards just for fun. You can read Small Gods. You can read all those just for fun. But it's a lot more fun if you read it with the intention of seeing the social satire he has woven into everything. And it's not like all in your face, boom, 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 boom. It's there if you want to see it. And
so it's there. The tapestry.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's well done. It's beautifully done. He doesn't slap you in the face with social commentary. It's there. And his characters, I mean, Sam Vimes, Granny Weatherwax, I love all of his characters and the things he has behind them. And it's this fierce passion that runs through all of his stories. And it's always there. Neil Gaiman had a story about him and Terry Pratchett. They were on the book tour for Good Omens a gajillion years ago. Anyway, they got lost trying to get to a gig to do an interview. They got lost. And they were having to walk. And Neil was kind of like, it'll be okay. Just calm down. He's like, you don't understand. It's this anger that got the book done. Okay. I use this anger, always have anger. And he said he didn't realize what an angry man Terry Pratchett was until afterwards. I think he talked about that in his eulogy, that you guys think that he was this kindly little guy. He was a mad man who was angry about everything and fueled his anger into these wonderful stories where he was able to change the world and teach lessons. That's what I would want to do. Tell a story that entertains and has fun, but if you're smart, because satire is for the smart people. Satire is not, dumb people don't get satire. They would understand and see the lesson that's behind most of the Discworld stuff. It's great. I would have loved to have met the guy. Unfortunately, it's too late for that. But to have written with him, oh my God, I can only imagine. They've been so much fun.
Oh, I'm sure. Alan?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of, to write with someone, that's a very unusual question. I don't know. I guess I would, because of what I write and what I do, my genre, I guess I would have to choose a really smart storyteller. Someone who's really good at crafting stories. Ooh. like Hergé, the author of Tintin,
okay,
which is from the Belgian tradition, very dated, of course, 1930s, but he did say throughout history.
Yes.
So maybe I would go with Hergé, because he really knew how to tell a story. Very detective.
What was your favorite what climactic kind of thing that he possessed that entertains you so much or intrigues you?
It's like sleuth detective stuff, very exotic, going all around the world. I like that. It's and what's funny is that the guy never left his armchair, and really? This was before internet. We're talking about the 1930s, 1940s. Somehow he went to the library and did all his research looking at photographs in books. But it's an international kind of sleuth, mystery solving detective kind of scenario, which has got humor as well. And yeah, really compelling beginnings and very good roller coaster ride of action and adventure in the middle. Good page turning stuff.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay, Chris?
Carl Sagan came to mind. I think it'd be fun to write with Carl Sagan. He was a visionary man, very, very intelligent, good storyteller, good popularizer. There's some word in there. He was
I had the worst crush on him when I was a girl. When I was 9, I loved Carl Sagan. I had the worst crush on him.
The turtlenecks. He covers his hickeys.
It was the turtlenecks. That's what got me. Yeah.
But so I would love to be able, even writing or not, I think it would be beneficial to me psychologically to hang out with Carl Sagan.
Oh yeah.
Hanging out with, and usually I write with, whatever people I talk to them, they usually get my mind going, and then I wind up writing something based on whatever whatever chain reaction they kicked off in my mind, and I think that would be good.
Okay. Sean?
I think for me, since I'm kind of in the fantasy realm, I kind of have to go with Tolkien. But he was my first
feeling.
Yeah, he was my first fantasy love, right? Like 7th grade, read The Hobbit, and I was just like, well, I guess this is my life now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read Lord of the Rings.
I live here now.
I'm gonna go from Lord of the Rings to Silmarillion, and then I'm gonna, go deep diving on the internet for 3 years on OneRing.net, and maybe not make any friends. But no, I think talking with him about his world, and all the kind of unfinished ideas he had that have been since published after his death by his son and his estate, like that's the kind of ideas that I really just want to get really deep into. And then working with him, you know, I am by no means any kind of language expert or anything like that. But I think together, I mean, I could have great ideas and he could have great words and we can make a beautiful book baby. So
Aw, beautiful book
see,
baby.
Amen to
I
that.
am torn because obviously I love Poe. But Oscar Wilde has always been one of my if I can sit and read, I'm in love. I'm enchanted, you know.
I mean,
think
it's your
he'd be a
question. You
funner
can,
person
you
to
can go
hang
with
out with.
both.
Talk about witty and
taking both.
satire.
Oscar Poe.
I can do that. I'm taking both.
Poe and Wilder. Oh, well,
Yep.
do both of them. Yeah,
Yep, definitely.
they
Every-
both drank. So
it-
run with it, man.
They were amazing, amazing. When it came to writing, they were the reason behind a lot of what, I guess, the love of a good story. You know, sitting
Right.
by a campfire, that feeling of being scared in the dark, that emotion of something brushing against your skin, all that. They were so derisive on bringing it to life, you know, and broadening the imagination in a little girl, put it that way.
Yeah.
But everyone I have had, it has been such a pleasure meeting all of you. And I hope
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
on Twitter
been
and
fun.
say hello
Been really
and give me a
fun.
shout out anytime.
This has been great.
Yeah,
Great. Very unique setup. This is
I try.
a conversation. Really
Yep.
nice.
I'm
So is this a
gonna-
regular thing? Is this like
Every Thursday,
okay?
same time, same place.
Okay, cool. Oh well, I shall look forward to seeing you all next week then.
Definitely. Have a beautiful night,
take care.
everyone.
Thank you
Be
much.
safe.
Bye-bye, guys.
I'll see
Bye
you.
bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye now.